Hi, Kate.
It's great to have you, and thank you so much for doing this pre-recorded broadcast with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you taking the time. As everyone knows, I'm actually here right now because we are recording this actually after last Wednesday's broadcast with Emily. Went right into a pre-record with Danielle, and right now, as we speak, I am overseas in France teaching my sewing class. So this is a pre-recorded broadcast. Janice is here doing some moderating. Danielle's project is up on the website for you to peruse. And if you ask questions in chat there, Janice will take care of all of your questions and stuff. So I'm sorry that we're not stopping to check comments because there aren't any comments yet. But Danielle, I'm super excited about this project.
Thanks.
We're using some SuperDuos today. What else are we using?
It's made with SuperDuo, and it has 8 seed beads.
Yes.
It has little 15s in between just so they have movement, right?
Yeah.
Some wire polish in size 4mm, and a really beautiful nun design finding. This is one of her half circle components.
Yeah, which I just love. It's so perfect for a fringe. And you have a fantastic handout for us and everything. So I'm not going to take up any more of your teaching time. Why don't you go ahead and let's work your magic, though that I can see that the piece that you made is matching my outfit. So
it is?
I'm going to have to make one.
Oh, I hope you do. And I will send you these as well.
So well, I won't say no to that for sure. All right. Well, let me highlight this, my friend, and then just take it away. I'm really excited. I'm going to take off this pre-recorded crawl here on the bottom of the page. But again, we're sorry that we're not monitoring comments in real time, but Janice is here for you and will do her best to answer any questions that any of you all might have. All right, let's take a look at this beautiful earring.
Thanks. Yeah, and I just realized I'm around next week. I can join the live chat when it's live.
Oh,
so I can be in there with you guys right now.
Oh, that's even better. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for doing that. So you folks will have Danielle in the chat and here on the screen.
It's a lot of Danielle's.
All right. All the better.
Yeah. So this is actually, it looks complex, but it's so easy. It's just a few little things, remembering where to pick up a bead and which one to go through. And other than that, that's all written out in the pattern for you. So it's simple brick stitch and fringe stringing with a really cool look at the end because it links the strands together in the center. And so the way it's worked is you start by brick stitching 10 8/0 seed beads. And we'll do that together. But one trick that I actually got from, I believe I got this from Emily, actually, or one of the lives you guys did together, which was to leave a long tail for fringe so you don't have to add thread and work with a strand.
That's a handy tip.
Here. So I cut with, I started with about 90 inches or so, 85 to 90 inches. And I tied a double knot at the midpoint of that thread to this component and left the 45, 50 inches off to one side, worked the 10 brick stitch 8/0 across, started working fringe to the midpoint, which brings you to right about there when your thread starts getting short. And then you can switch over to that tail side and use the tail side to work in to the middle, which will bring you here. It's a really fun step where you join with one extra strand, and we'll do that together here to complete your design. Super easy. So that's my point.
I was going to say, it's such a really, I just love this design. I love how you brought everything together with those SuperDuos. It's such a clever use of them. I love that motif.
Thank you. Yeah, I love an ikat, so I'm always putting ikat in anything that I can.
Yeah, same.
Really enjoyed.
So great.
And lots of possibility here for changing up those colors, as always. You can always make a different color today. And one of the things I did in the pattern that is kind of cool, I did put one with colors, so you can check that out. But I put the truly referenceable pattern here, the one with the real counts. You could color these in if you wanted to.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great idea. Like a little bead coloring book. I love it.
I love the idea of like having a multiple versions, you know. So if I print this out and I can color it in, maybe print it 3-4 times for different versions. And it shows where the SuperDuo, because SuperDuos are a 2-pole bead, is showing the strands are sharing a SuperDuo. So like you'll create one, and then when you create the second one, you're gonna go through the whole of the first one. And that starts becoming a little more complex as you get to the center, at which point we're doing a lot of joining.
Right.
Last strand.
Wow, you're so good with those charts, Danielle. That is so handy. Really great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm going to put this over here and follow along.
Sure.
Myself.
And those of you who want to download the chart, just a quick reminder, it's on the project page. I'm sure Janice is linking it as we speak, but you can go ahead and download Danielle's free directions. We really, really appreciate you making such a great handout. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So I have already put a needle on one side of my thread, but what I'm going to do is just take this end of the thread and find the other end. And then just tying that midpoint onto the component. So I'll just bring these ends together and just bring the component over one of them and then just slide that down. And for now, I don't really need to worry about it because we can slide it around. So I'm just going to get a good double knot tied to that. It's a pretty long strand going here, but it won't be too unwieldy once we get going.
And Danielle, let me ask you, are we using Fireline for this? What are you using today?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking. I've got that 4-pound Fireline is what I'm calling out in the design. At the moment, I'm working with a darker color. Crystal 4-pound, it literally just disappears. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, really great. Yeah, it's perfect. And then you're using a size 10 beading needle, or are you going down to a 12 because of the 15s?
I think I have a size 10 here, but I think a 12 would also be great.
Okay, so you could use either or. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think any hard beading needle should be fine because these 15s are Miyuki and they tend to just very easily. Yeah, no problem there. They're pretty good. But yeah, so there's my thread tied at the midpoint of its length. And again, I started with about 90 inches and I left half of it behind as a tail. And I'll start with my first bead, bring that one on. There's a trick I like to do. It saves me a little trouble for later. When things are tight against the component after you brick stitch, it's easier to do this now. I like to take that tail thread, just bring it through the first bead. And then we can pull that working a tail thread apart and tighten it. Helps us get a nice tight start. And this bead will automatically kind of move itself over a little bit as we add more beads. So for now, it might kind of hover a little off the edge, but it should move along pretty good after we get the next 9 on. So here's the next bead. And just needle behind the component and through the center. And if you kind of put your finger like this, it'll hold the bead from going, along with you as you pull the needle through. And then around the front of the component and up through the bead. And you'll get that second bead to hold steady, just like that. So super easy brick stitch on a component. Next bead.
Those non-designed components are so sturdy and so fun to work with.
I love them. I think they're probably one of my favorite of her components. It ends up being the one I use the most.
Yeah. And it's such a nice size to make a statement earring. It's, it definitely makes a statement, but it's not too gigantic.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty lightweight, so it's really good for earrings.
Mm-hmm.
Just the perfect size for a nice fringe earring.
Yeah, and if big fringe earrings aren't your thing, folks, you could definitely just make this as a centerpiece for a necklace and then, bead it or do like a, however you'd want to string it, or do 2 as a lariat. These earrings don't necessarily have to end up on your ears. They could definitely end up on a necklace as well.
Yes, exactly. And there's also that opportunity to shorten the strands. There's 2 pieces on the design that would be very convenient for doing that, and I'll point those out as we go.
Oh, fantastic.
Where you could just, instead of doing 3 beads, you do 2, and do that repeatedly over the next, repeats of the pattern, and it reduces it.
Oh, nice.
So there's my 9th bead. I'm going to squeeze one more bead on there. And then I'm going to kind of adjust things around. And so the reason I just didn't go with 9 is because my center of my ikat is a 2-hole bead. So I needed an even count. So there's 10. And 10 actually looks really good on there. So I think it looks really nice. And if you're using crystal thread, you won't really see the thread on the component at all. It just disappears. One little trick I like to do before I get started with my fringe strands, I really like to reinforce each of these edges. So I'll go up through this one here, one bead in from the one I'm exiting, and then just zip right over to that other bead and tighten that. So that's going to keep these nice and tight. So I don't have to keep tightening my brick stitch as I do my fringe. It won't loosen on me. Same thing with the tail over here. And you might even be able to do it without your needle. Just bring that up. And I'll pop a needle on there if I can't, but there we go. Oops. Maybe I will grab one really quick. It's a good spot for one of these little short sharps.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's very smart, very clever.
Earlier today when I was working one of the in-process ones, I was able to just get that without a needle to work, but didn't do that time. So there we go. So both of those are not going to get, they're not going to do the little wonky thing where one of them kind of like tips upward. And that's just a knit, but I think it really levels up the quality of how the fringe looks when it's done. So it makes it look really pop and real tight. All right, fun part. So the chart here, one thing to note about the chart is I didn't want it to be too unwieldy, so I left the 15s off of it. All you're doing with 15s is you start every strand with a 15, and then in between every one of these, which are your size 8 seed beads, your color A, color B, and that's all listed out here, the color A through. So you just do a 15, an A, a 15, an A, a 15, an A, and so on. And if you wanted to make this shorter, the places to do that are right here. You could take these down to 2, take that down to 2. And then also down here in the sections of B, you could reduce the section of B here, and you can reduce one of the A's, even 2 of those A's if you wanted to. And you'd still have the same symmetry, the same cool look at the bottom.
Right.
But not so long. And that ikat would stay right in the center of it.
Right. Oh, it's great.
Like I would take one row of each A and B out here, and then I would take out one from each of these, and that would reduce it by 4 beads per strand, and be a good way to do it. But it does look really cool, super long, so I'll show that one. So here's color A, but starting with a 15. And then we'll grab 1 and 2, 3. So there's that little section of color A. And here's color B. And I just laid those out in order here. So it's A, B, C, D. So I don't even have to think about it. They're just right there. And so there's those 3, color B. And so now it switches to 2, color C, and 2. Here's this one, the next one. Oops. Did I not jump that one out? Oops. This one is my My color D. Sorry, I forgot to dump out my color D. I got there and like, something's missing.
Oh, I love that color. Yes.
My favorites. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So pretty. 2 of those. I tried to make it an easy to remember fringe count. So it's just 2 and 2 like that. And then always just take a look and make sure you didn't miss one. And I make a lot of errors when I'm doing fringe, so I just check it. And then there's 2 of these really gorgeous topazzy ones. And now it's time for a super duo. And again, that's all right here. So we just did all of that. And there's our first super duo. And then even before and after the super duos, we're still adding those 15s. There's that one.
Yeah, those 15s make a nice little space to really, really highlight that that A dot.
I love the way they look too. It has such a cool, just a cool little appearance there. I don't know.
Yeah. That's definitely a signature Danielle Wickes move.
Put 15s in there.
Throw 15 in it. Yeah, looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, I was pretty smitten with these. I think I might be making lots and lots and lots of these. There's those 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so that's the whole strand with the exception of these gorgeous umber fire polish, which are 4 millimeter. And I have a little handful of them right here.
Very nice.
Another way you could make them a little less statement is to not have 2. I just really like the look of having 2 at the bottom. So I strung them like that.
Right.
But always just do 1. Or you could put a little gemstone or, all of that.
You could also use like a Miyuki drop or something on here too, right, Danielle?
Oh, yeah. Anything you want to weight the fringe with at the bottom of the
work. Yeah.
And so the other tricky thing is just making sure you don't skip any of those 15s as you're going back up the strand. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to head back up through all of those. The lights really help, like a bright light, magnifier. And one other thought I had is you could use 11s instead of the 15s if you wanted.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, for sure.
I think it would still look really good.
Yeah. The 15s, though, they do have a pretty generous hole. So if you just kind of aim for the bead hole, sometimes it's, you can get it in there.
Yeah. And so what I'm going to do here is I've been holding on to just the fire polish bead at the bottom. Sometimes it's a little hard to pinch the little 15 and then just holding it like this and pull that tightly just to get that fringe strand to be tight, but not too tight, like making sure it can still move and has its wiggle to it. And with the 4-pound, it definitely has a lot of flexibility. All right. So there's one strand done. I'm going to start the next one, and it's going to look pretty much identical right up until we get just above the super duo. So start with my 3. And there's those 3. Again, that's a spot where you could, if you wanted to, you could shorten all that if you felt like it. And there's those 3 and 3. Just making sure I didn't skip. There's 2 and 2. And there's that 15. Okay, so something's going to be different coming up here. So we just did the matte champagne, and there's only going to be 1 of the gold next. So showing it here, we just added those 2. There's, instead of having 2 color E, which is that shiny topaz gold color, There's only going to be one, and you'll have a super duo, and then we'll go through the open hole of the super duo from strand 1. We'll do another super duo, and then we'll resume with the pattern of the E, and so on. So from here, we'll pick up this one. Here's a super duo bead, another 15. And then we'll just go ahead and join this one here. And you'll get something that looks like that. Pick up another 15, another super duo, and another 15, and then let's just work that pattern back. One of the goldish topazy ones, 2 of the champagne, 2 persimmon, and string those. Okay. And so that creates the little point. So that little we created that so far, basically, the little point there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and then another optional thing I did was I've got the beads graduating down. So it's going to start increasing every time. So in this case, let me bring one of these over. So we had 2 here. Then we'll have 3, 4, 5, and then in the center there's 6. And then it'll go to the center one, which will also have 6. The 2 in the center will have the same length. So just noting that every time you add color B at the end, you're increasing it by 1 as you head toward the center. That's another way to remember it. All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, and then 3A. All right, 2 fire polish. And there you go. So that's the first 2 strands done. And you can just keep going like that. Let's see if I can find my other sample. What you'll want to do is continue following that chart and doing the same thing to create all the way to the center. And that's about when your thread will start getting short.
Oh, nice. And I really like that high contrast of that luster super duo. I think that's a real key to this design, is having that super duo be a really high contrast to the other beads.
I love that too. I purposely made it really stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And from the original prototype, I decided that darkening up the bead around it would make it even pop more. So
Yeah.
This is the prototype. It had a little bit of a lighter color.
Oh, yeah. No, you can really see that difference. Yeah, that really shows it.
And
I
so
mean, it's fun to do it subtle as well, but, to really make that ikat motif pop, that high contrast is great.
Thanks. Yeah, I really like it. I was so excited how that turned out.
Yeah.
So I can show some more of these strands if you want to see a few more, or I can go ahead and show starting this other side, or we could even skip to joining it.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do kind of the other, because it's pretty much the same, right, Danielle? Now that you've got everything going in that direction, you're going to kind of do it in you just keep going, right?
Yeah. It's just the only suggestion that I make is to double check as you're doing each strand, because in order for this to make that beautiful stair-stepping pattern, what has to happen is each of these rows, you're adding 1 less bead above every time, and you're adding a new super duo every time.
Mm-hmm.
So each one will add a super duo and go through one, but then some things start happening here in the center. Whereas you see here, what we just did is we joined 2 super duos to that one.
Right.
What happens in the third strand is you add another one, and then you space it out with another gold.
Gotcha.
And then, but the pattern is really, really super clear here, especially if you want to just come in and color these in or something with, it shows exactly here. I've just strung these two. I'm going to go through this one, and you'll have one less bead leading up to it, but you replace it with every time. So it makes sense. It just takes a minute. You'll have it all in front of you, and it'll make sense in the moment.
Right. Well, why don't you go ahead and do one more of the center ones, or if you want to do one more on that, whatever you think would be more beneficial.
Yeah, I think, well, so what will happen with this one is using the, sorry, I used the crystal here, but the tail thread here, you would just be repeating everything we just did here into the center.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do one more on this so you can see another link up.
Sure.
And that might be the easiest. So I just need to head up back through this strand really quick. That's the only thing about demoing fringe is it's a little bit, there's a lot of spots where there's, things that you do that take a minute that you do over and over again.
Yeah. Well, and that's also, I like how you're really how you pointed that out, also being really methodical when you're going back up that fringe, to just take a little moment to double check that you've grabbed every single bead, because it's a bummer once you've done like a few fringes down the way. I've done that and I'm like, oh, you can see a thread.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That happened to me twice, actually, just last night working on one of the in-process ones.
Yeah.
I took it apart 2 times, and it was just like, oh.
Yeah, so disappointing.
Easy to do, but easy to fix as well. It just takes a little extra time. It's never permanent. So.
Yeah.
All right. And so there's those two. And I always kind of smooth them out. It's really actually quite fun to see these come together because the way they interlock is super, super satisfying. So they like just line up, and it's like a little puzzle, I guess. And so here's the next one. I'm just going to throw these beads on here. There's 3. And then there's all 3 of the color B. So just each one has its 15. Here's the persimmon. So pretty. And then here's the matte champagne. And one more 15. And so what's going to happen here, we'll bring it up a little closer. So we're going to need to skip adding the gold color and add a SuperDuo instead. And then, of course, follow that up with the 15. And so here you can see already it just telling you, yeah, we're lining up our little staircase. I'm going to go through the second hole of this one here. And so you'll see, you get lots of confidence markers because this one you can totally see how it's just forming that nice little staircase.
Right. And it's that SuperDuo that just takes the place of that 8-aught. So essentially you're just swapping it out.
Yeah, exactly. Those 8-aughts are a perfect height for being replaced with SuperDuo, I was finding. And then here in between these two, for just this row, you're going to be adding another gold one. And it all works out. It seems a little weird at the moment, but it all works. And then we'll need another 15 and another SuperDuo. Sometimes I struggle to remember the bottom one. So that's one you just want to watch for, making sure to get that one. And from there, you just string the rest of that pattern out. So, oops, I went to gold. I meant to go to persimmon. And then here, there's going to be an extra color B. So we had 3 there, and now we want to have 4 of those. So there's 1, 2, and 3. There's 4. I always find fringe to be kind of a mindfulness test for me.
Yeah.
I'm truly present or not.
Yeah. No, it's really, and it adds a lot of movement to the piece. And I really like how they're hooked together. So they add movement, but they really have, it's a little more controlled. So they're not flying all over the place. It's a great design feature, I think.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've been noticing this trick with the SuperDuos. I have a feeling it would work for other stuff, like basically, like even a strung design, a multi-strand,
right?
Even macrame. I feel like it could work for
Right.
macrame too. So just making sure I've got all those. It's really easy to miss one. Oh, looks like I got it. And that one's just kind of trying to avoid my needle there. Awesome. Okay, almost there. Yeah, one trick for the 15s is if you kind of lift up your work, and it's hard to see from this angle, but if you're looking at it from the side, the 15s, if you miss them, they'll kind of hang lower. If you suspend the strand up a little bit, you'll see it. You'll spot it. So there's the next one.
All right. Looks great. So yeah, you can really see how that bead in there is kind of like the little placeholder, or it takes up the space that the SuperDuo leaves.
Yep, exactly. And as you keep going, what ends up happening is so here's the side we were working on. Let's ignore that side for now. As you keep going, you'll get the next strand that's going to add another SuperDuo, and then you'll have one of the gold beads, another SuperDuo gold bead, SuperDuo, go through the SuperDuo, add another one, and then the final strand has these added here with another little space and the link in the center.
Right.
So you'll get to this spot right here. Oops, sorry about that. And then you'll have the other strands to build coming from this direction.
Gotcha. So you build towards the center and then connect them.
Yeah. So you'll build until you get to right here. And then you'll switch over to that tail thread.
Gotcha.
And I sometimes you can weave it in, or you can leave your other thread in place and use it as a place to tie to. Don't tie too tight because it'll cinch up your fringe, but you can sometimes get away with like just a little gentle knot, especially if if you let it get a little short, the tail thread. So this was my experiment, so my thread here is just a little smidge short. I might actually tie off to it. But yeah, so you'll have this, and then you'll just take this tail thread, and you'll work the other side over until you reach the center strand. And so that's where I am here, is I'm about to add, so we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this direction, picked up that tail, worked 4 in this direction, and now I'm here hanging out in the center, ready to join them. And that last strand, you don't need to add any SuperDuos. You're only adding 8/0s and 15s and traveling through all the SuperDuos there. So that's really the only difference between the right and the left sides, is when you're working this side, you will complete that 5th strand, and it will add a total of 4 SuperDuos. So just kind of showing them apart there. So hopefully that makes sense. It definitely will make a lot more sense when you're looking at the chart, because the chart,
yeah, for sure,
all the ones you've added, and you can even check them off. Sometimes I do that, like I'll just kind of color in the ones I've added if I need to know which ones I haven't done yet.
Right.
So let me go ahead and pop a needle onto this one over here. And this really is the fun part, actually. So
yeah, it's fun putting it together for sure.
Yeah, all that hard work, and it's just all worth it when you get to this one spot in the design, where it just everything just like locks in place. And so there's our 3 so far, doing the same thing we've been doing. And then 3 color B, 2, 3. And then there's going to be 2 of the persimmon. All right. And so just take a note that there's no matte champagne in those 2 center strands. So we basically stop at color C. And let me show that on the chart really quick. So we just did these 3, the B, the C. And now I'm going to go through the SuperDuos. And so what you'll want to do is bring them together each side. And so you're going through the right side hole of the top one and the left side hole of the one from the other strand below it. So that brings them together. And notice right here, I forgot my 15. And that I could add the 15s to the chart, but it made it really tiny to fit it on one page. But I avoid with doing that. It's a little
right. It's a little visually confusing, I think.
But it makes it kind of easy to forget to add the 15 because if you're looking at the chart, you won't immediately say, "Oh, I need to add that." But so there's that with the 15. You might notice it when you do the pass through. All right, and so we just did that. So now we need to do a 15 and E a 15. Seeing that for myself to remind me. And then we'll go through the next 2 SuperDuo, but remembering a 15 between them. So the first one, here's a 15. Go through the second one. And while I'm here remembering, grab another 15, another color E, and another 15. Oops, sorry about that. Jumped ahead. Just a 15, and then I almost forgot our friend here. But you'll see it. It will jump out at you, just like it did for me. So now I've got this one going. I'll head to the next SuperDuo. Grab one more 15, and then heading through the last one. And you'll know you got it because everything will line up. If you've skipped a 15 somewhere, you'll see it now. It'll be really apparent. You can just go back and add it. And one thing I would note also is I didn't do it here because I was trying to make it a little bit easier for me to work on the samples. But if you want to leave your old thread in place after working that 5th one, just in case when you get here, you see something, you're like, oh no, I gotta go and add that. If you've already woven this in and tied this off, you're kind of stuck at that point. So maybe weave this in after. Just leave that hanging out just until you've joined, and then weave in those strands at that point.
That's a good way to safety net it, yeah.
Yeah, because if I had made a mistake over here, it would have been, I've already woven this one in, so I'd have been like, oh no. So yeah, it's easy to do, but if you're just looking at the chart, it'll definitely help. And yeah, so I'll finish out this row and then we're done. All we got to do. So just picking up a 15. Let's do 2 persimmon. And then it's going to be the same count as this one. So 6 of those color B. There's 2. There's 3 and 4. And there's 5 and 6. And it should match the design of that last one. So here's 3 of those A. There's our fire polish. And there it is. So those two center strands will be about the same length. They should be, the same length. Right now I don't have the, for some reason that back up makes it a little tighter. It looks a little bit longer right now, but it shouldn't be. I head back through all those beads really carefully. And this is definitely the trickiest one, because now you've got all these SuperDuos to get through and little 15s in between them. A little tricky, but not too bad. There's through all those. Oh, and the other cool thing about this step is it makes the SuperDuos even tighter looking after this passes back through. Almost there.
Yeah, it looks great. And you're still using that size 10, right? The regular.
Still using the 10, but if you wanted to use a 12, that's totally great too. I think I've only encountered one or two little tight spots, and that was probably just one oddball 15 that was not formed right. It happened right at the beginning when I was working on the other one. And I bravely pulled with chainless pliers and it was fine.
Right. Right.
It just scared me that, But yeah, so there it is. All the prettinesses.
Wow. Looks so great.
Thank you. That's the fun part.
It's great. So now you're going to weave the rest of that in, or that one in.
Yeah. And it's super easy. If I had another strand here, I could tie to it. I wove it in before, but like I was saying, I probably should not have done that because it locks me in to being 100% sure I didn't make an error. So yeah, but because you'll see it at that spot. But what I'm going to do now is just go around the brick stitch a few times. So going up and around the component. And there we go. So I'll probably just trim it right there.
Yeah, great. And then you'll add an ear wire.
Yes.
Right on the top, right?
Beautiful pair of ear wires here.
And we don't need to add another bead or a jump ring. You just add them directly on. Is that right?
Yeah, because it's already facing forward.
Right.
And so I think you could if you wanted to, but I don't think it needs it.
Right. It'll just also add length. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't really have a front or a back either. So you can just go ahead and bring this over. And these are so nice. I love these. The ball doesn't quite fit through the hole, so I'm going to go the back way around it, but it's a nice secure. It's not going to come loose.
Right.
There it is.
All right. Looks fantastic. And would you just measure that for us, Danielle? Do you have a tape measure?
I do.
Hanging around right there.
Do you go from the top of the ear wire usually?
Yeah, kind of where it goes through my ear, I guess. I don't know.
It's going to put it at 4.5 on the longest center strand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 4.5 there. You could make that like if you took a bead out here, a bead out here, and a bead out here and here, made it shorter by 4, you could get that down to just a hair over 4 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even go with just, one bead.
Right.
Probably easiest to remember if you did 2 and 2 here. I feel like that would have good symmetry, but then there's already a brick stitch row, so you could even get away with just starting it with 1.
Right. Right.
Symmetry.
Right. Yeah. Well, however you want to, to personalize it, I think looks great. It's just really a great piece. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, and
That's
I had
great.
one idea to share that might be fun for let me bring my other camera really quick.
Oh, sure. Okay. Great.
Oh no, you can go to the face cam if you like. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. There we go. Whichever one works. There we go.
There we go. Sorry, I was not figuring out how to switch my camera very well.
There we are.
So this chart here, I wanted to share that it was done in Excel, and you could very easily do your own. The way you represent the SuperDuo is you just merge the cell. So you take those two cells where you're joining and just merge them. You could create your very own, like this, bracelets, necklaces, loom.
Oh, what a great tip. Because that merged cell is 2 A-dots.
Yep.
Across. That's really clever. You're so good with charts. You're so good with the charts. I love it.
And this is one with the program everybody has, right? So
right, exactly. Everyone has Excel.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Oh, well, Danielle, thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you joining us today. As a note, this is a pre-recorded broadcast, but I know that there's been all kinds of chat, all kinds of questions, all kinds of answers, all kinds of fun stuff. So you'll be able to find this project. We'll have it right on the homepage for you, so you can click on over, grab all the ingredients, grab Danielle's fantastic handout, and I can't wait to see what you make with this. It's going to be awesome.
I can't wait to see too. I'll have to watch for posts from you guys.
Yeah, so make sure, and that reminds me, let me make sure and put this up. I'm going to cover you for just a second, Danielle. Don't forget, folks, you can find us everywhere online at the Bead Table, our Facebook group, where if you make this project or any other projects, make sure to post it up so we can see what you've made. Hit us up on Instagram with the tag beadshop.com. Our Pinterest pages have a lot of great info on them. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're doing it now, or you're watching us on replay, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and notification button. It'll build our followers, and it'll remind you every time we go on so you don't miss an episode. As well as you can hit us up at info@beadshop.com with any questions. And Danielle, I know you're going to be back with us soon. Sometimes I don't have my calendar here to consult, but I'm sure you have another fantastic project up your sleeve for us coming up.
I do, yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you again. Thanks for joining us on this pre-recorded, and I'll see you all when I get back. And Danielle, thank you again. What a fantastic earring. I can't wait to see them in person.
I'm so glad you like them, and have a great trip to France.
I will. I can verify that right now I'm having a fantastic time. All right. We'll see you soon, everybody. Thanks so much again, Danielle. Bye all.